Hi, so in this video, let's look at two famous libraries in the market right now. The first one is Streamlit and second one is LangChain. So to understand Streamlit, let's try to understand the strengths and weaknesses of Python. So historically, Python was very good in making like a backend of any application. So which means like if I were to query a database and then generate some report, and Python is the best language for that. Or if I want to build a machine learning model, and Python is best for that. Or if I want to make the API or the backend of any web application, then Python is really very good for that. But using Python, I cannot make a form, I cannot build a form, I cannot have input buttons, or I cannot have like a drop downs. Now that is not what Python was built for. So but with Streamlit, a Python engineer can now directly build his own web application. Now that's the beauty of Streamlit library. So let's try to understand this landscape a bit better so that we can appreciate Streamlit. So first one, let's say we have a end user sitting over here. So now when this user opens his Google Chrome and let's say he's typing in www.google.com. So what happens is the request goes to a web server which will kind of return back a HTML application, right? Typically we call this as front end development and all of that. Then what happens, this front end, as in this web application, when I let's say fill the form and when I hit the submit button, this front end further goes and talks with backend. So typically we call that as a API layer. Now this backend internally kind of goes and talks to some database. It can be a MongoDB database or MySQL, PostgreSQL, or GraphDB, this DB, that DB. There are 10,000 databases in the world. So now, long story short, we need to have a front end, and the front end goes and talks with back end, and the back end is the one which is going and talking with database and performing a lot of intelligent. Most of the intelligence is contained in the back end side of the things. Now with Streamlit coming into picture, or before we go on, so typically backend is built either by Python, or we have Node.js, we have Java, we have Golang and all of that. And typically on the front end side, I can just go vanilla, as in I can directly open a HTML page and I can write some HTML tags and that's all, right? I don't need to have any framework, or I can go with React.js, or I can go with Vue.js, or I can go with Angular. So these are all the frameworks. But fundamentally, whether I use React or whether I use Angular, end of the day, it all gets boiled down as a simple HTML. So which means like the browser can understand only HTML. So that's what we call as the front end side of the things. So now with Streamlit coming into picture, what is happening is they have basically merged both of these layers, which means if I want to build a small application, I don't have like an API kind of thing. So using Python, I can connect with database, plus I can also show that data on front end. Both happen at the same time. Now that's the beauty. Now what is a big deal in that? It's really very simple. If you want to make a quick rapid prototype, or if you want to make a simple application, it's going to be much faster using Streamlit. Instead of using front end, make it here, back end, make it here, make an API. So that's going to take a lot of time. Okay, let's try to now make a simple application and see all of this in action. So in a simple words, this is how a Streamlit application would look like. So first, I would suggest you give a read to this link, cheatsheet.streamlit app. So the first thing that we'll have to do is we have to pip install this library. Okay, so now that I have this installed, perfect. Now I go back, and the first thing that I have to do is import this library, and that's what we have done here. So we have imported that Streamlit and created an alias called st. So moving forward, now I can just call st dot something, and then automatically the library will start acting. So the first simplest command that I can think of is st dot title hello world. So now I am hoping that when I run this program, I see a huge web page wherein it shows hello world in the top. Now let's see. So in order to run this application, it's over here somewhere. Yeah, it says you have to say Streamlit run app.py. Perfect. So now I see this huge text called hello world. So now let's look at what are the other things that we have got. Now let's say I want to have a header. Okay, let's say I copy this, come back, of course I have to save it, refresh the page, perfect, I see the header. So now let's experiment with other things. Let's say we want subheader, just copy, save, come back, refresh, perfect. Now let's say I want to have an input field. Okay, so now let's say I am having this requirement, enter your name. Okay, so now if I come back and then refresh, wow, I have enter your name button. For example, my name is Anand KS. Now the point is, when I hit enter, how do I capture the value which has been entered in that input box? Simple, you have to say name is equal to so and so, and I just print it over here. So which means whatever name that I'm going to enter in the box should show up here. Let me save it, go back, refresh. Let's say Anand Reddy KS, just hit enter, come back here, perfect, so I see the value. Now just a small improvement, what if I just want to show this input box right here? So we have a field called st, we have a function called st.write, and I can just say st.write of name, which means whatever value I'm entering here, it shows up right here. If I just reload, I say Anand, hit enter, I see it here. If I say, for example, XYZ, hit enter, I see it here. So as you can see, building this application right within Python makes your job very simple. For example, if you have to make an API call and then directly show that data, then you can do all of that. So let's move on. What else do we have? We have a checkbox, we have a radio button, we have a select box, right? Let's say, for example, let's add this radio button. Okay, so if I come back, just hit reload, pick one, nose or ear. Similarly, if I have a select box, come back, refresh, pick one, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I hope we got a basic idea. So there are a lot of other features. In fact, you can build like a small chart. You can build a mini dashboard. You can accept a file, and then let's say you accept a CSV file, do some processing, and give back the results. Or let's say if you are working with data science and you have something to do with pandas, then you can directly show that pandas data frame right within the table. All these benefits. So now let's make a simple application. First, just to kind of get the real juice of Streamlit, and second, let's understand about LangChain and how can we connect both of them. They both are not related, but they can be leveraged to make an application real quick. Okay, so now let's try to make a simple application. So the idea is like this. So I'm going to enter the temperature in Celsius, and that should be converted into Fahrenheit, and it should be shown on the front end. Okay, the first thing that I would do is let's say Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion. Let's just look at a simple logic. Okay, so whatever value that I enter, I just have to do 9 by 5 times that value plus 32. Now that's very straightforward. So let's do it this way. Let's give the title of our application as Celsius to Fahrenheit converter. Perfect. So if I come back, we have a beautiful title. Now the first thing, since my value is going to be a number, I'm going to say enter the temperature in Celsius. So the default value is, let's say 0.0, and we have step value is 0.1. So now just come back and see this. So if I enter any value, I have to hit a button, and then once I click on the button, the value is going to show up over here. That's what we're trying to build. So what I'll do, I need a button. Okay, so I have a button over here, and then I hit when I hit on that, that's when the logic has to apply. So what I'll do here is, let me create a variable called pressed. Okay, and let me create a variable here called temperature in Celsius. Okay, oh, CIUS, perfect. So now if the button is pressed, only then the below logic should get executed. And what is it doing? It's taking another variable called Fahrenheit, which is basically just recalculating the value, and finally I am just writing it onto the screen. That's all. So if I come back, let's say if I give the temperature is some let's say 35, and then hit convert, the temperature in Fahrenheit is 95. Let's say if I give temperature in Celsius 100, the temperature in Fahrenheit is 212. So that's simple. So this is Streamlit. Okay, so you can now directly make most of the front-end components directly using Python. Now let's try to understand what is LangChain, the other side of the story. Okay, so if we come back here, so most of you know what is ChatGPT, right? So if the user is trying to ask any question, in technical terminology we call it as prompt. So when I ask a question or when I give a prompt, I'm going to get back a response or the result, right? Let's say I have a local database, and if I'm asking any question like who is the president of America, what is, tell me which movies have been acted by so and so actor, or tell me so and so concept in physics, it can tell because it's a very generic information. But if I want to make ChatGPT understand my business context, or the data that I have, the students that I have, the patients that I have in the hospital. So when I say, show me the details of so and so patient and what is the problem that he has got, blah blah blah. So ChatGPT cannot do that. Why? Because it doesn't have the context of who your patients are. Now that's where we need to make ChatGPT to connect with our data source. Now how can we do that? So that's where we have LangChain coming into picture, which basically means simple. So the way this whole thing works is, when you ask a question, let's take an example. Let's say my name is Anand. Okay, how can I assist you today? Okay, I live in Hyderabad. Great, how can I help you? Now let's say I'm having this conversation with ChatGPT, like I keep asking some 100 questions and it gives me 100 responses. After 100 questions, let's say I ask this question, what is my name? Do you think that it is still going to remember that my name is Anand? Let's test. Yeah, it says your name is Anand. Although here the conversation was quite small, but if the conversation would have been 100 messages long or 1000 messages long, and still if you go and ask what is your name, it will still tell that your name is Anand. Now, how does this work? Does ChatGPT remember everything that you ask? You keep saying, if I open a new conversation, now if I ask, what is my name, will it still say that my name is Anand? Let's try. No, I don't have access to your personal information, confidentiality, blah blah blah. Again, if I say my name is Anand and then go back, what is my name? Now it again it remembers. So which means clearly ChatGPT has the context of only that conversation. And the question is, how big a conversation can it handle? Now that's what let's try to understand in this second half of the video. So when I said my name is Anand, so that was a prompt. Okay, and then I got the response from ChatGPT. Hello Anand, what should I do? How do I assist today? Is the response. Then again I said I live in Hyderabad, and then, oh great, you live in Hyderabad. What do you want to know about Hyderabad? That was the response. Now coming back, now I am asking the question, what is my name? Suddenly it says your name is Anand. How does it work? So the idea is simple. In ChatGPT or in any, these are called as LLMs, like large language models. Okay, so ChatGPT is one of the best example of a very successful LLM, but we have a lot of other open sourced LLMs as well. Like we have got Gemini, we have got Llama, we have got some open source from Facebook and all of those. So the idea is, when the user asks a question or a prompt, what happens in the background is, the the system sitting there, it is going to pull up all the pieces which are relevant for that particular question, and then all of them are going to get added into that prompt as the context. And because of having all that information, the GPT algorithm is able to give you the right result. Now what does it mean? So which means, when I ask this question, what is my name? Okay, when I ask this question, the ChatGPT is basically going to figure out, is this message relevant to the question that is being asked? Yes, because it's talking about name. Whereas, is this message relevant to the question that I'm asking right now? No, this is not relevant. Where I live in is not relevant. This is not relevant. Which means, when I ask this question, what is my name is Anand, and what is my name, both are going to get stacked up together like this. And then both are going to the GPT algorithm at the same time, and hence I'm able to get back the response. Similarly, let's say if I've asked the different question, where do I live? Okay, now this is not relevant anymore. This is not relevant anymore, whereas this is relevant. So what happens? Both of them are going to get stacked up, which means you think that the question that you're asking is only 2 lines, but before your question, 20 more lines are going to get appended or getting added based on your previous context. And then all the 20 previous lines and 2 lines of your question, 22 lines is going to the GPT, but you don't see all of that. Okay, so long story short, there's a lot going on, and if you have to build an application, let's say the same example that I've talked about, the patient, tell me the details of the patient. When I ask this question, somehow we have to figure out what is the user trying to ask, which patient details is trying to ask, and somehow we have to pull that context and we have to pass that patient details as the context. When that happens, whatever question that you're asking about the patient, it comes out beautifully in a human readable format. So there's a lot going on. I know this might be a little complicated, so hence we have LangChain. Okay, so LangChain is this library which is going to make this whole job very simple. So what we will do in this current video, let's take a simple use case. So now this is a very simple LangChain application that I have written. So if you see here, it's only 4 lines of code. What it is doing is, imagine you're a doctor and if a person has a body temperature of so and so, is it normal? Else suggest the do's and don'ts. Now that is a prompt, as in the question that I am asking to the OpenAI model. Now let's look at the response. So first I'll say Python space testing.py. Okay, so I see, yes, 98.6 degree Fahrenheit is considered to be normal body temperature. However, it is important to monitor your body temperature. These are the do's, these are the don'ts. Perfect. Let's say I make the temperature to be 102. If I run this, no, a body temperature of 102 is not normal. Generally, a normal body temperature is 98.6. If a person has body temperature of 102, it is important to take an action, blah, blah, blah. So now the point is, instead of writing it in the command prompt, my idea is, when let's say the user is entering his temperature here, automatically this Fahrenheit should be going to the GPT model, the one that we have written just now, and the response should show up right here. So which means, long story short, I enter the temperature in Celsius, the Fahrenheit value gets calculated, and then with that a prompt gets triggered and automatically the result shows up. Let's connect all the pieces together. So for doing that, what I have to do is, let's go back to our earlier system. So let's import these libraries here, and let's just copy this thing. Okay, so imagine you are a doctor. If your body if the person has a body temperature of, now here goes our value. Whatever value is coming out from this formula, whatever output comes, it goes as an input into this question. I just put an F in the start, so basically it's going to be interpreted as a variable. So now I get the response back. I'm just going to write the response here. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's write both. The temperature in Fahrenheit is so and so, followed by, I'm going to put the response of the GPT down here. Okay, now as expected, like I have to start this application, so I'm going to say Streamlit run app.py. Now don't remember that command, it's already there in the cheat sheet, you just have to copy paste it. Yeah, so now I have, let's say I am putting 36 degree Celsius. Now it gets converted into Fahrenheit. Perfect. The temperature is so and so, the body temperature of 96.8 is considered normal, and these are the do's, these are the don'ts. Now let's say I make the temperature to 36.8. Again, first step, convert that into Fahrenheit. Second step, pass that Fahrenheit into this GPT, and then it gives the whole story, the do's and the don'ts and all. Let's say I give an exceptionally high value, let's say 45. The body temperature is not normal, the normal body temperature for, that's all, right? So now, if this is a very simple explanation of what is Streamlit and what is LangChain, but obviously if you want to build something really complicated, there are a lot more nuances. But hope you understood the basic idea of it, and thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.